I'm Sarah Ryan. I live in Fort Myers, Florida. I have two daughters who are 10 and 7 who I have homeschooled with my husband since they started elementary.
When you started homeschooling, did you have a curriculum in mind that you were using, or did you kind of create your own?
When we started them when they were little, it was really easy because you can just go to Staples or Target or anything and kind of find a basis of just reading and spelling. So that's what we did initially. And then once they grew out of that kind of easy curriculums, we started using the master books, which is a Christian-based curriculum. But it's still kind of a la carte. You can order a whole school year, or you can kind of pick what you want, which is what we liked. So we could choose the subjects that we liked and that we thought are important that our kids know.
What subjects would those be?
So when they're young, they do reading, spelling, math, language, writing, music, and a foreign language. And now the 7-year-old is kind of still in that realm, but we add geography and history. And then my 10-year-old, she does those plus keyboarding and Bible. They both do Bible also.
What was the initial thing that kind of got you to want to start homeschooling?
So we had both taught before in different school systems, and I really just wasn't pleased with the way that things were handled and the lack of power that I had as a teacher. It was very frustrating to me, and I kind of saw how the students who wanted to work hard suffered because of the students who didn't want to work hard, and that was frustrating to me. And then I was sitting at the table one day with my 3.5, 4-year-old daughter, my first daughter, and she was eating a bowl of cereal, and she looked up at me and she said, "Hey Mom, I figured out how to count by nines." And I said, "What?" It wasn't something that we had ever discussed before. And I was kind of taken aback, and I said, "Okay, well, what do you mean?" And she goes, "Well, if you count by nines, it's really easy because the first number just goes up 1 digit and the second number goes down." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she goes, 18. So then you just make the 1 a 2 and you make the 8 a 7. And then you just keep going. And I said, "Okay, well, let's see how high you can go," thinking she's going to go, I don't know, 45-ish, somewhere around there. And I stopped her at about 200. I said, okay, I get it.
Wow.
That's amazing. And it was mind blowing to me because I have really good math skills myself, and that had never occurred to me, and I thought, if she's thinking of this at 4 years old, well, she's just sitting there eating cereal. And I thought, I cannot put this child in with other 4 and 5-year-olds, and she had really not shown an interest when we would put her with kids her age. She kind of would find her own thing to do. She's very social. If you meet her, she'll introduce herself right away. She's very social, but it wasn't stimulating for her. And we found still, she's 10 and most of her friends are 13 to 15 years old. That's where she finds her niche with them. So I thought, well, I don't want to put her in normal school. Let's see if we can do this. And once we started, it just took off.
What are some of the things that you focus on that you're doing in homeschool that you feel like you could, kind of hone in on your daughter's skills? Like, what are some of the things that you're looking for as a mother?
We're kind of a math heavy family. We like a lot of math. That, as I found, has applied to my life more than a lot of the other subjects that we take. I also like music a lot. They both enjoy doing that. And geography and history, I think we can give them a more accurate depiction of things than what they get just from the general mainstream education. And we can be real with them about it. We don't have to sugarcoat anything, and they handle it pretty well. So
what have your two daughters said about their experience with homeschooling? Do they mostly enjoy it?
Yeah, they really, it's kind of funny. Usually we joke because all of their friends, when they find out, most people don't know that my kids are homeschooled. They swim on a swim team. They do a bunch of stuff until we tell them that they're homeschooled. People are like, "Oh, I had no clue." They're just normal kids. But they always say when their friends come over, they're like, "I wish I was homeschooled." And my nieces and nephews, kind of the same thing. So I think they realize what a blessing it is. They really don't complain. They're very self-motivated.
The feedback that I get from a lot of homeschoolers is that they actually have plenty of time with their friends, plenty of time to socialize, that it's not much of an issue as people normally think. And I'm getting that from your two kids saying that as well. Is that correct?
So socialization is usually the biggest concern that I get from other people when they ask me about homeschooling. And what we've found is that it's easy to get your kids out and with other people if you want that to be the case. So our kids are required to be in a sport. Doesn't matter what sport, as long as it's something that they enjoy and we can get them to and from. That's a good excuse me. That's a good avenue for us. We also participate at church a lot. We go on Sundays and Wednesday nights. So we have different groups of friends. On top of that, I make an effort in our neighborhood. We live in a neighborhood that has lots of children in it, to have fun things for neighborhood kids to come over and do. We have a trampoline. Usually our house is the door that's being knocked on to come play.
I'm curious, what is like a normal day-to-day life when you're homeschooling your kids? I mean, because they're at different ages, so like, how do you kind of balance those two schedules and what they're working with?
We have a schedule where we are up at 8, school starts at 9. You're to be dressed with your teeth brushed, have breakfast, all of those things, and at the kitchen table by 9. They sit across from each other, which I wasn't sure about at first, but it's working just fine. And one of us is usually sitting right there, kind of guiding them through what they're supposed to be doing for the day. And then the subjects that they share, we do at the same time. So I kind of find a Bible we share, geography, music, those things they do together. So we do those last once they finish their initial curriculum work. We have lunch midday. They get to play for maybe 20 minutes, and then we get back to school. So we do school from 9 to about 2, depending on how quickly they work, with a break in the middle. And we're done by 2. And if we have something to do in the morning, then we go do what we have to do in the morning, and we start school a little bit late. It's very flexible. And some days, if they want to work ahead, they can absolutely do so. So my 10-year-old now has finished through halfway tomorrow. So she'll have a half day tomorrow, and that's no problem. Her work is set for the week. If they want to get it done early, as long as they do so, we don't have a problem with that.
What would be one of the things that you dislike about the public school system that maybe caused you to want to start homeschooling?
I think it was that kind of generic way to teach when you know that they're all learning differently. And honestly, just the lack of enforcement that exists now. You know, I could tell people, you can't do that. You are not allowed to do that. But there is absolutely nothing I could do to stop them. If I sent them to the principal's office, the principal doesn't have any power either. So they were there for 2 minutes, and then they're back interrupting your classroom again. And there's absolutely zero consequences. There's just nothing I could do. And I was so frustrated with it that I quit.
Do you think that you're going to continue to homeschool them through high school?
That's our plan as of now. We are considering doing something flexible where they could go for half days or something like that, because I do, my degrees are in science, and it would be very difficult for us to replicate the experiences that I had at home. So that's something that we couldn't do. So we're debating whether we would want to join a homeschool group where they do that, or put them into high school for half days. Our concern with that, though, is that their age would be not appropriate for high school. So my daughter's 10 and she's in 7th grade. So if we put her in, she would be 3 to 4 years younger than the other kids there. And we've seen on different levels how that's difficult, because they're discussing things that aren't appropriate for her age group. So that would be our concern. We're just trying to debate where we're going to go with it.
What would be like a tip of advice for people that are just trying to get into homeschooling that maybe have a little bit of apprehension around it?
I will say that it is not as hard as what you think. And if you just take that first step of calling your district and finding out what it would take, I think you'd be surprised. And I also think that most people assume that you're still doing school for the same amount of time every day, that it takes you 8 hours or whatever. I mean, there are plenty of days where we're done by 12. If they just sit down and work, we're done by lunch, and we have the rest of the day to do whatever we want. And your kids are not going to have any educational deficits. You can have teachers evaluate them. It's not very expensive, and they will tell you exactly how it is and where your kids need to excel or how they're doing in things. It's not as hard as you think, and you get to learn along with them. You're not jumping in, at 11th grade and getting stuck with algebra and not remembering how it goes. I get to walk along with them. So I like it.
Well, thanks for so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all your time and, your experience with homeschooling, and I just wish you all the best.
Thanks, Nicholas. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.